So picture two data analysts. One just used AI to write a SQL query, and it passed her initial review and looked correct, but she had no idea that it was actually wrong until a stakeholder asked her a follow-up question that she wasn't prepared for. The second analyst ignores AI entirely, spends about 3 hours rabbit holing on analysis, and he's now behind on everything else. Neither of these analysts is winning, and there's a smarter approach between these two, and that is what we're going to talk about in today's video. We're going to talk about exactly where and how AI fits into the data analyst workflow, how to use it at work and how to talk about it in interviews, and how to make sure that you are becoming AI enabled, not AI dependent. If you're new here, I'm Christine. I spent a decade in data, and I've worked as a hiring manager and a data director, and now I help working professionals and data analysts become standout analysts on the actual job. If that sounds helpful to you, make sure to subscribe and let's dive in. So the analysts at risk are not the people who are using AI. It's the people whose entire value was built on technical, repeatable, and manual work without any critical thinking layered on top, because that stuff is getting automated whether you opt in or not. Now, this is actually really good news because that means that the roles that are shrinking are roles that were purely execution based. And I'm pretty sure no one really wants to just be a SQL monkey all day. The kinds of roles that are growing are roles that focus more on strategic communication, stakeholder relationships, and domain knowledge and having business acumen, which means that there's an analyst that is becoming more valuable today. And that's people with strong storytelling skills, project management skills, stakeholder relationships, and the ability to integrate their technical skills with real business context. Now, to become that analyst, we first need to understand what AI is genuinely helpful for and where you will always have the edge. So there's two categories here that matter the most. So coding and technical work, AI can write SQL and write Python code in a matter of minutes, which also means that a query that might have taken you 30 to 45 minutes to debug on your own can now be resolved in under 10. But most of the time, AI will not have full legacy knowledge about the code base. So it doesn't understand your team's undocumented workarounds. It's not going to have the context if there's a column that you shouldn't use, or if there's a new table that is actually now better to use than the old table. And if you're newer to SQL, leaning on AI before you can really understand the logic on your own is exactly how you end up like Analyst 1. So make sure you understand CTEs and window functions and can actually explain these functions to someone else before you start using AI to write your code. And then the second category is insight and communication. So AI can draft a really polished write-up in a few minutes. It can create really beautiful slides, but it cannot read the room. It doesn't understand if your VP is actually asking for one thing, but actually means another thing. It doesn't understand if a CFO enters the room unexpectedly and that shifts the entire tone or goal of the meeting. And it can't really read between the lines if two teams have opposing opinions on the same goals or same metrics. So the through line is this: AI can always generate an answer, but only you can know if it's the right one. Quick pause. If you want a full walkthrough and the actual prompts to use in the AI for Analysts workflow, then check out my practical AI for Data Analyst guide linked down below. It covers how to talk about AI in interviews, how to make sure that you're becoming an AI enabled analyst instead of an AI dependent one, and it also includes prompts to use in your portfolio projects, your resumes, your interview prep, and in your coding. So make sure to grab it below before you forget. So let's make this concrete. Here's what the data analyst workflow looks like without AI and what it looks like in the hands of an AI-enabled data analyst. The first step to any project is usually receiving the request or starting to scope out the project. So let's say on Thursday, a product manager sends you a Slack message and says, hey, can you pull some engagement metrics for next week's leadership meeting? Usually you would have to scope out this project on your own, right? You'd have to figure out what the clarifying questions are. You'd have to try to understand the scope of the leadership meeting and maybe go back and forth a few times with that product manager to understand what the actual deliverable is. That could be anywhere from 30 minutes to maybe an hour before you actually touch a single table. So with something like Claude, you can always paste in that vague stakeholder request and ask for some clarifying questions first. And what you get back is a prioritized list of the most important things to confirm. And this takes just a few seconds, but you're still doing the thinking. You're just doing it faster and also with more rigor. And if you're newer to the analyst role, then this is one of the most powerful things that AI can do for you because it can help you build your requirements gathering muscle and help you build the instinct to think like a senior analyst before you're actually there. Then we move into the technical part of actually writing the code. And this is where I started to see a lot of AI over-reliance start to develop. This is where I start to notice the difference between becoming AI enabled versus AI dependent. So the AI enabled data analyst always writes the query themselves first. They understand how to structure it, and they can even give AI some rough pseudocode. And maybe the syntax isn't perfectly correct, but they're mostly using AI to debug, improve the code, and to learn how to code. So that habit is what separates the analysts who are actually building a skill versus losing a skill. So the non-negotiable rule here is that if you cannot actually explain the code or the logic, then you do not own that query. So if you're still building your SQL foundation, make sure you're using AI to learn, not to actually skip the learning. Then we move into analyzing the data. And this is most often a very misused application of AI. People often paste in a prompt like analyze the data set and then just copy the conclusions into their GitHub or into their final write-up. But that's not actually analysis. It's just outsourcing your thinking to something that doesn't understand your business context, your stakeholders, and the final goal of your work. So this is what an AI-enabled analyst does instead. They always form their own opinion and read of the data before outsourcing it to AI to do the final polishing and refining. And they ask very pointed questions. So instead of just saying, analyze this data set, they'll use AI to pressure test it. For example, what are 3 follow-up questions that I should expect from this stakeholder from this analysis? And what are 3 alternative explanations for this spike or for this dip? And what am I possibly missing? So the advantage here isn't just speed. It's actually in the quality and the depth of your thinking before it reaches another teammate or another stakeholder. And then lastly, in actually communicating the findings. Without AI as data analysts, this will often be a very tedious or manual process, putting everything into slides, writing emails, and making sure that everyone understands our actual findings. But with something like Claude, we can now feed in our initial points and get a really refined and polished first draft. And then we can continue to refine it by adding more context, more judgment, more feedback, so that it lands with our specific audience and our specific goal. So the structure and the presentations can come together really quickly, but then the substance is still all yours. Okay, so here's where people either get a lot of value out of AI or get very generic output and AI slop and then give up. So learning to prompt well actually makes you a better analyst because you have to clearly define the problem, understand your data set, and be able to clearly articulate exactly what you need. So every strong prompt has 4 things. The role, so first tell AI who it's being. For example, saying something like, you're a SQL tutor who is helping a mid-level data analyst understand CTEs is going to be much more helpful than just pasting in a query. The context, so explain the situation, who the stakeholders are, what the timeline is, what the goal is. Just remember that vague input usually gets vague or rambling output. Then the actual task and constraints. So make sure you're being specific about what you do and what you don't want. For example, saying something like, don't suggest analysis that I can't actually do with the tables I described, or don't invent details that I haven't given you. These kinds of constraints make sure that you're getting accurate responses without hallucinations. And then also explain what you want to learn, not just what you want done. Now, this is the thing that I think most people skip, especially when it comes to querying. So instead of just having it write a query, ask it to explain the fix to you and also help you understand the pattern in the actual error. And this is what turns a debugging session into an actual learning moment. And it's what helps prevent you from becoming over-dependent on AI. So here's what this looks like in practice. When you're debugging SQL, a weak prompt looks like, fix my SQL query. Whereas a strong prompt sounds like, I'm querying an orders table and I'm trying to calculate the monthly revenue for 2024, excluding canceled orders. Here's my query and the error. Tell me what's wrong, why it's happening, and explain the fix so I actually understand it. When it comes to structuring a vague ask, a weak prompt sounds like, how do I analyze why sales dropped in November? Whereas a strong prompt sounds like, my manager asked why sales dropped 15% in November. Can you look into it? I have an orders table, a customers table, and a marketing spend table. So give me the 5 most important questions to answer first in priority order, and don't suggest analysis that I can't run with this data. And then for interview prep, instead of asking something like, how would you answer this interview question? A strong prompt sounds like, here's my rough answer to this question. Help me refine it into a really strong response that I can answer in under 90 seconds. Tell me what an interviewer would probably probe on and flag any weaknesses or red flags in my answer. And don't invent details that I haven't given you. So remember, the role, the context, the task and constraints, and also what you want to learn from it. When you prompt this way, you're also using AI to sharpen your own thinking. Okay, so this is one of the most important parts of the video, and here's the rule. If AI is doing something that you cannot explain, then you are not using AI. AI is actually using you. Usually around month 3 or 4 of becoming too dependent on AI, I'll notice that there's usually a slight pause or a bit of insecurity in not knowing whether you actually understand what you've built. And that feeling is a signal. It means that the tool has gotten ahead of your understanding. And to be honest, interviewers and stakeholders can tell when someone can speak to their own work versus they're talking talking about something that they didn't actually build. Now, the fix isn't to stop using AI, it's to rebuild this loop. So with code, make sure that you're writing the structure first, even if it's using rough pseudocode. You can use AI to improve and debug, but don't use it to generate from scratch until you're confident that you could write it yourself. If you can't explain a query in a meeting or an interview, then make sure you go back to the fundamentals. With communication, making sure that you're drafting independently and then using AI to refine and tighten the language, not to decide what to say. So if you can't explain the reasoning behind a recommendation, then know that you've outsourced too much. And then on the actual analysis, interpret the data yourself first. So form your own read, use AI to challenge it, find the gaps, the blind spots, and alternative explanations, but your take always goes first, always. So the analysts who get promoted, get hired, get recruited, use AI aggressively for speed, but they also use their own judgment aggressively for accuracy. And that is what AI enablement actually means. So in the beginning of this video, we talked about two different analysts, one who became over-reliant on AI and couldn't actually explain her own work, and another who ignored AI entirely and then felt behind. Whether you are already in a data role or you're trying to break into your first data role, the goal is the same. I want you to become the data analyst who feels confident in interviews, confident in stakeholder meetings, and can clearly explain every number, anticipate follow-up questions, and uses AI to refine and improve your own thinking. Download my practical AI for analysts guide down below. It has full prompts, a tool breakdown, and exactly how to talk about AI in interviews. That's it for this video. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.